Coming up on the HisViewZ podcast.
What's meant for you won't miss you. And that can apply with jobs, relationships, a raise, something, anything. Whatever's supposed to happen in your life is going to happen, and you have control to a certain extent. And went into broadcasting, and literally a month in, I was like, I hate this. I don't want to be a reporter anymore. This is so not what I wanted to do. And that was such a big crisis for me, because I'm like, this is what I thought I was going to do. I just studied this in school. Now I'm in all the student debt for studying this. And this is not panning out to be what I wanted it to be. That was my world got turned upside down when that happened. But if I hadn't left the news job and I hadn't gone and worked at the newspaper and started doing things on social media and getting that experience, I never would have, I never in general thought that I would have ended up here in Charlotte doing this. It goes like that.
All day.
Yeah, literally same. My vocal teacher told me that when I was little. They were like, do you know you kind of have vocal fry like a pop star does? And I'm like, thanks. So...
Wait, how old were you when somebody told you had vocal fry?
I think I was like 11, literally.
That's
They're
good.
like, because I was doing musical theater stuff.
That's mean.
So I know. So with musical theater, obviously you don't want to sound like freaking Britney Spears. But they're like, you kind of have vocal fry a little bit. I'm like, okay, well.
Oh, man. Well, we already popped it off. Thank you for coming.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I'm so excited.
For those listening, I have Miss Jamie here. Well, actually, you know what? Let me let you introduce yourself and let the people know what you do here in Charlotte.
Yeah. So my name is Jamie Burton. I obviously am here in Charlotte, North Carolina. Moved here about a year ago, and I run Explore CLT on Instagram.
And that looks like a lot of fun.
Yeah, it is a lot of fun. It's a lot of, exploring, which is in the name, but a lot of running around too. I've met so many amazing people in the city in the past year, made great connections, so I wouldn't trade it for anything.
So I guess I wanted to ask you, just jump right into it.
Yeah.
How did that come about? I'm sure you have, because opportunities like that, they just don't show up. And I'm sure you probably did a lot of work beforehand. So how did you come about doing that?
Yeah, so exactly like you said. I was kind of surprised when I got approached with the opportunity. Kind of throwing it back a little bit, I originally moved to Savannah, Georgia as a news reporter in 2020. And that was a crazy year for journalism, obviously, but kind of got, growing up, I always loved making videos and making home movies, music videos, stuff like that.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, in my free time. So I kind of, as an adult now, it's funny to see how your childhood hobbies and activities kind of transform into your adult life. So went into broadcast journalism very quickly, realized that it was not for me. After about 10 months, I'm like, this is so depressing and so sad.
Was this here in Charlotte?
It was in Savannah, Georgia.
Savannah, Georgia.
Yep.
Savannah.
So I have so much respect for my friends that have stayed in it, but it was just not for me in many ways. And then kind of started doing some social media stuff for a newspaper that I worked at, and realized that I could still use my video skills and telling a story and different things like that in a different way on Instagram. So my sister's, this is like so many different connections, but my sister's best friend's husband was looking to buy Explore CLT, and he had seen some of my stuff on Instagram and reached out and was like, you'll have to move to Charlotte, but I want you to run the account. And that's how that happened. Yeah.
How long ago was this?
That was last October, so literally about a year ago when I heard about the opportunity. Wow. Sat on it for a bit, but made the jump and moved here in December.
So talk to me about, so what does it all entail? What is Explore Charlotte?
Explore Charlotte is everything that's going on in the city, from restaurants opening, events going on, hidden gems, just kind of different things like that. The account before I took it over, it was actually one of the original accounts, kind of like Charlotte Agenda here, and which we know is now Axios, but it used to be kind of a reposting account just of other people's content, which was totally cool on Instagram, the photos and whatnot, but now we know it's very video oriented at this point. So I kind of came in to rebrand the page, give it a personality, give it a face, and just make it a little bit more personable and personal than it was before.
And so is this your full-time gig?
Yeah, it's my full-time gig.
That's
so
crazy.
it's kind of, I wear a bunch of different hats. You know, I'm a content creator, but I also have a sales component to it. I'm also the editor. Everything that you see on that page is from me, which I think shocks people sometimes because we're on the verge of 180,000 followers at this point.
Insane.
Yeah, when I took the account over, we had, I believe it was 153,000. So we've grown quite a bit this year, which has been very rewarding and amazing. But yeah, I mean, everything that you see on there is me editing it. It's my voice, my face that's on there. And
Well, that's how I found you.
Yeah.
We were at a restaurant grand opening, and I saw you with a cell phone and a humongous light on it. And in my world, I'm like, oh, she knows what she's doing. But to other people, they're probably like, what the hell is she doing?
Oh my gosh. I have to tell you that definitely coming into this job, I was a little afraid to start taking content in public, you know, getting video of
It's
other
nerve-wracking.
people. It
Yeah.
is because, you know, some people are really not cool being on camera. Even the other night I was doing the Christmas show and I asked the parents if I could get their kids in a video. Like I always want to make sure people are cool with it. But getting that light for the first time, I think I was at Steak 48 using it for the first
wow.
time. And I was like, oh my gosh, like this is absolutely
How is Steak 48,
insane.
by the way?
Oh.
I just passed by there yesterday.
Oh my gosh,
Yeah.
absolutely unbelievable. I brought my sister and
Nice.
we had a grand old time.
Was this the sister I met?
Yes,
Oh,
yes,
cool.
yep,
She was awesome. Her energy
Yeah,
was
she's great.
What are you passionate about?
I'm passionate about, you know, I definitely overall content creating, honestly. I think it's really important to tell other people's stories. So growing up, I was involved in musical theater, literally started singing at the age of like 3 and started doing musical theater from there. And what I loved so much about that was having to put yourself in someone else's shoes and tell their story authentically. And also making other people feel something that maybe they have never felt before or kind of like trigger something and then be like,
Personal
oh.
branding.
Yes, exactly. And that's why I got into journalism, because it's telling someone else's story. They kind of like go hand in hand in some ways. So although I'm not a news reporter anymore and not technically a journalist, I'm still telling the stories of businesses here in Charlotte and the people here in Charlotte, which I love so much. I think one of the most rewarding things this year was I just found a really cool activity. It's called Splatter CLT, where you're throwing paint at a canvas. And I was like, let me just go.
I saw that.
Did you? Yeah. So it
Yes.
was my first kind of viral video on Explore. And I just thought it was
That
really
looks
cool.
like so much fun.
Oh my gosh, it's so much fun. You have to do it. But I just went and did it for fun, posted it on Instagram, and I remember him telling me something along the lines of he made a month's worth of revenue within 24 hours because that video went so viral. So, you know, it's helping businesses and telling the stories. That's something that I'm passionate
You
about.
changed their lives.
Yeah. Well, yeah. It's like, that's big, but
No, you did. That's exactly what you did. I'm so big on personal branding. So with what I do, with the commercial work and the marketing and all that stuff, there's so much oversaturation in every single industry. So I tell my clients the best way to do it is to tell your own story. How did you get here?
Yeah.
Because no one is going to get to the level that they are at without a certain story. And that's what people are drawn into. For example, when I started marketing my photography, my page didn't really start growing until I was coming out on my page, like photos of me, behind the scenes stuff of me. Then when I started doing the podcast, ironically, my podcast clips were doing better than all of my other stuff. Like, this is not how it's supposed to work.
this is backwards.
So I find it fascinating that you focus on that because I'm extremely passionate about that. Personal branding is what it is for me. How busy do you stay?
Oh my gosh.
Are you like at multiple locations a day? Do you book once a day, or how do you do it?
It depends on the day for sure. Every day is definitely very different, but I love that I have control over what I'm doing, where with the news, I didn't really have control. And that's what I'm just very old school. I have a massive planner. I write everything out. I don't use kind of like a Google Calendar or anything.
Every entrepreneur does.
Yeah, I need to have everything right in front of me. So every day, you know, I'm usually at one shoot a day, mostly on Mondays. I take those days to like upload our videos to TikTok and YouTube and different things like that, kind of catch up on the week and see what I have going on. But there was one day this year that I literally had 5 events in one day. So I try not to do that to myself anymore. I think kind of getting into the job at first, I was like, oh my gosh, I really want to like prove myself, meet everyone, do everything that I can do, but you will get very tired very quickly.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
now I'm a lot better. It's all a learning process, right? And now I'm a lot better about using my time strategically and what should I go to, what should I not go to, different things like that.
And you do everything with a cell phone?
Everything with my cell phone. Yeah, it's kind of crazy. I mean, I was used to using Premiere to edit things, and now it's like you use Instagram itself or CapCut, and I do everything on there in Canva.
How do you, so with that being said, I love to ask business owners and entrepreneurs, work-life balance. Do you believe in that? And if you do, what? And if you do, how do you manage it yourself?
Yeah.
And what do you do for yourself as well? Like, what do you do because you have to have some sort of a routine where you're like, okay, this is what's going to be my stress relief.
Yeah. 100%. For those people listening, when you just asked me work-life balance, my facial expression was like, oh yeah, 100%.
That's going to be the cover right there.
That facial expression. Yes, 150% I believe in work-life balance. And I say that because my first job out of college as a news reporter, I had no work-life balance at all. I would start technically working at 2 p.m., but I would really start working at 10 a.m. because I'd have to find stories, have to pitch them by noon. And these are all off the clock things too. Like I wasn't getting paid for that. I also worked weekends. So being brand new in a city, it was really hard to make a lot of new friends. Thankfully, I moved down there with one of my best friends, but I just think it's so important because you will experience burnout. And it's also like life is short. You need to do things for yourself. So I honestly found a love for yoga, which is kind of random, but
not random. No,
it's something that I started to do because you don't have to think about anything else. You're focusing on yourself. You're focusing on the movements that your body is doing. And it really makes you feel empowered when you like hit new poses that you haven't been able to do before. So now I try to make time, some days are busier than others, but I really do try to find time to go and do yoga once a day or go and do Pilates, just do something that works for me is moving my body. But at the same time, also on the weekends, I still will post on our Instagram and I'll check it, but I'm not staring at my phone all day because I need to do things for myself too.
You have to disconnect.
Yeah.
It's interesting that you say that because you could tell yourself, all right, I'm going to start working at 11 a.m. But then you find yourself actually doing things that are actually like work. Like for example, for myself, I would tell myself, okay, I'm not booking any shoots this week. 8 to 10 hours throughout each day, though, I'm doing admin work. I'm working on edits. I'm working on, strategic plans on what to do with this and that. And I'm like, man, I didn't really take any time off. But it took me years to realize that. Mm-hmm. Like you have to literally just turn everything off and just go do something else.
No, it's so true. I joke all the time. Although I'm on Instagram all the time and on social media, I mean, I love to also be off of it at the same time. Like I would love to turn my phone off for a week and just go do something else because it's important to disconnect. I mean, I will sit there on TikTok for 5 hours and just keep going and feel every emotion possible while scrolling because you got a sad video, you got a happy video, like you can't keep up. But it is important to disconnect and kind of put yourself first in those ways. Work is so important, but that's what I kind of admire about, like younger people now is that yes, work is important, but also putting yourself, your mental health and just everything else first.
The mental health is the biggest. So the mental health subject is kind of why I started the podcast because I was experiencing just a couple of years ago, I guess pandemic time frame. I was experiencing a lot of mental health instability, and then when things started to roll back in, I was just ready to get back into it, and I was overworking myself and experiencing burnout. Do you have a method when you start to feel those, I guess I would say those challenges mentally? Do you have something that you go to?
That's a really great question. I'm really big about journaling. I've always been big about journaling. it's kind of crazy what comes out on paper that you didn't realize you were thinking when you really just take that moment to be with yourself.
You're only the 150th person that's told me this. I need to try it.
No, seriously, it's great. I mean, I had as a little kid being like, oh, I have a crush on so-and-so and whatever, dear diary, whatever. But now I use it as kind of, it's an escape for me, definitely now. My biggest thing is trust yourself when you're feeling a certain way. I never really had anxiety growing up until I got into my news job. I keep going back to that job, but it just taught me so much. I'm very grateful for it in many different ways. But I'm also grateful that I'm not in it anymore.
Yeah.
But I was just like, what am I experiencing? Like, I was crying all the time. And I think that's where it's like, okay, I need to put a pause. Obviously things need to get done, but take a second for yourself and really recharge. Like, close the computer for a second, turn off your phone, just really sit there, listen to your favorite music, go on a walk. Walks are amazing to clear your head. It's so important when you start feeling that way.
It's interesting that you keep mentioning the news job. I think everyone has a point in their life when they're chasing after stuff that I call it like boot camp almost. It's preparing you for what you're really meant to do. And so, for example, I started working from the age of 14. And from 14 to 32, I worked dead-end jobs, you name it. I was security at bars and clubs. I worked at auto parts stores. I was a bartender. I was a waiter. You name it. And I've had conversations with people that are close to me that they get discouraged and they're like, they try something for a few days and then they're like, this isn't going to work. I'm like, it doesn't work like that. You have to try as many things as possible to find what you're really meant to do. So there was a point in my life where I got really into fitness, and I was doing like Olympic lifting and stuff like that. And people were hiring me to train them and stuff. Not anymore. I don't work out that much, but I'm trying. Anyways, but someone told me like, hey, you should do your stuff on YouTube. And I saved up a little bit of money to buy a camera, and it didn't take long, maybe 2-3 weeks after owning that camera, I started looking up YouTube videos, YouTube University, that's what I call it, on how to take better photos, how to take better videos. And I was hooked. Little by little, every day after work, instead of going to the gym, I would go to my favorite coffee shop. Shout out Notch's Coffee. I would go to Notch's Coffee at the 7th Street location, and I would just sit there and I would record the baristas, and I would take pictures of all of their latte art, and I'd figure out how to edit. I would figure out how to get the emotion of the baristas, and I was just hooked. And that was when I was 32. 33, I went full time. I'm now 38, and my life has completely changed because of that. But if I didn't go from auto parts to bartending to whatever I was doing to that, I would have never found that. It didn't just land on my lap. That's just how life works.
I can't even agree with that more. One of my favorite phrases is my friend Whitney, shout out to Whitney, told me this a few years ago, that what's meant for you won't miss you. And that can apply with jobs, relationships, a raise, something, anything. Whatever's supposed to happen in your life is going to happen, and you have control to a certain extent. But relating to that, I mean, I studied broadcast journalism in school. I grew up watching the Today Show, and that was my dream. Every time we would go on trips, so I went to Penn State for college, and I was part of this journalism group, and we'd go to New York City. Every time we were outside of the Today Show studio, I would get a picture in front of it, because that
awesome.
was my dream. And went into broadcasting, and literally a month in, I was like, I hate this. I don't want to be a reporter anymore. This is so not what I wanted to do. And that was such a big crisis for me, because I'm like, this is what I thought I was going to do. I just studied this in school. Now I'm in all the student debt for studying this. And this is not panning out to be what I wanted it to be. That was my world got turned upside down when that happened. But if I hadn't left the news job and I hadn't gone and worked at the newspaper and started doing things on social media and getting that experience, I never would have, I never in general thought that I would have ended up here in Charlotte doing this. But everything works out the way it's supposed to. In college, my summer going into senior year, I was an intern at The Tonight Show with Jimmy Fallon.
No way.
Yeah.
Dude, that's awesome.
And it's important to set goals for yourself too, which we can talk about. But I was an intern there, and my plan after senior year was to move back to New York City and do the PAGE program. COVID hit. I graduated in 2020, right in the middle of everything. Like, got off the plane for my spring break senior year and got sent home, which was insane. But because
that must have hit hard.
It was so sad, so sad. But I did go back 2 years later and walk the stage, because I was like, if I just paid all this money to be here, I am walking this stage. I don't care if it's 10 years later. I'm coming back.
I love that.
Yeah. So, but anyways, so I just, again, everything works out the way it's supposed to. Now, I can never picture myself living in New York City. Like, I couldn't picture that now. I love Charlotte so much and all of the opportunities that it has given me. And if I had done that, then I never would have moved to Savannah, Georgia and met the people that I met. I never would have been here. So you just got to trust the process, and what's meant for you won't miss you.
Exactly. So I've never really considered Charlotte home. I'm more of a New York, Boston, Washington, D.C. type of a guy.
Gotcha.
But the opportunities, like you just said, the opportunities that I have gotten, I mean, Charlotte has thanks to Charlotte and the growth of Charlotte, it has made me who I am today. That was actually one of my questions. Now that you're doing Explore Charlotte, like, how have you witnessed the growth, and how fast or slow do you think? Like, where do you think Charlotte is right now compared to like bigger metropolitan areas?
So my sister has actually lived here for about 7 years. So from her, she's told me that it's just grown so much while she's been here. And I've seen it too while visiting and whatnot. But I do think Charlotte is growing a lot. And I think Charlotte has so much to offer. And that's what I love about it, because I live in South End, which I'm not a big city girl. Like I was saying, like New York City now, thinking about taking the subway and whatnot stresses me out. So if I want to go into Uptown, then I kind of get that city feel with like the high rise buildings and whatnot. But in South End, you know, you're still in a city, but it feels more like a neighborhood. I can walk anywhere, walk to Rhino Market, walk to Superica, like different places that I want to go to. And there's so many different neighborhoods, South End, Elizabeth, Dilworth, and just so many different places. That I think Charlotte is really popping up and starting to compete with these other cities. I saw some statistic that, I'm not going to say this 100% correct, but like 100 people move to Charlotte every day or something like that.
Oh yeah, I saw that as well.
I mean, you see apartment complexes going up everywhere.
Every day.
Yeah, because so many people are moving here. But I genuinely do feel from living in other cities that there is so much opportunity here in
the traffic.
Charlotte.
I mean, if you haven't noticed, like the traffic has changed so dramatically. It kind of reminds me of Atlanta. Ugh.
Yeah.
Like the traffic in Atlanta. Have you been to Atlanta?
Oh yes.
Okay. Yep. Yeah, you're from Savannah. What am I talking about? Yeah, it's some of the worst. Like I've driven in New York and Miami, which in my opinion, and LA, which in my opinion have some of the worst traffic in the country, and like Charlotte is starting to remind me of that. But that just shows like the growth of everything. You mentioned goals. So for me, goals are super important to keep you on track and keep you focused. So I have like, I'll challenge myself with like 1 or 2 small goals a year. And then I have a big goal to meet before the end of the year. What do you think about goals? Are they bullshit, or are they?
I don't think so. I mean, at least for me, I'm a very competitive person, whether it comes to, like sports, anything, but even with myself, I always want to prove myself wrong when I think that I can't do something. Honestly, coming into Explore, I'm like, I didn't trust myself to do it. The first time I posted on Explore, I almost had a heart attack. Like I checked everything over and over again, just because there's also so many eyes on it and it's been around for so long. But I think goals are so important. In college, I set a goal for myself because it's all about learning and getting new experiences. And I set a goal for myself to do a news, sports, and entertainment internship. And I ended up
news, sports, and entertainment internship.
Yep. So just a few different aspects of broadcasting, just so I could see everything, because I really didn't know which avenue I wanted to go into. And so I did a news internship with W10 back home in upstate New York. I worked with Penn State Athletics when I was at school, and then I ended up doing the Tonight Show with Jimmy Fallon. And I learned so many different things from that. And even now, I literally just set goals this week for 2024 when it comes to Explore and my own personal stuff.
You're starting early.
Yeah, I mean, I just, now doing this for a year, I know the page so much better. I know our followers. I know what I think we need to focus on. And so in 2024, not only growing the business itself, but also I really want to try and grow us to at least 250,000 followers. My personal pages, I really want to try to grow to 10,000. I've had my Instagram for so long. I'm at like 3,000 right now, but I haven't taken it seriously until this year. I'm like, wait, people like my content. Maybe I should start doing that. So, for me, that's my goal this year also, is to not only grow Explore, but to grow my own personal brand.
Yeah.
And I don't want to do Charlotte stuff for my personal brand. I really just want to be me and kind of talk about what's going on in my life and different things that, and just kind of see what happens. Take a chance on myself, and
That's awesome.
Yeah.
What, as far as like yourself, like I know you mentioned yoga, and then I'm sure Explore Charlotte takes up a lot of your time, but like you personally, what do you like to do? What does Jamie do on her time off?
My free time. I mean, I do love yoga. I love working out. I get it from my mom. She was an aerobics instructor. She's a dietitian now, but I used to go to her aerobics classes when I was like 4 years old and be in the back dancing. So I love that. I actually love to sing. I mentioned earlier that I did musical theater, and that was something that I thought I might go to school for. My parents were like, no, that ain't happening. Now I'm actually...
That's not a real job.
Yeah, they're like, no, you need to do something else, which now I'm thankful for, because graduating during COVID, Broadway was shut down, everything. But I do miss it. I miss performing so much, but I love to sing. I play my guitar sometimes. I'm not very good, but I try to teach myself some stuff.
That's awesome.
And honestly, hanging out with friends, I know that that's such a cliche answer, but in 2022, my last year in Savannah, a lot of my friends had moved away, just had a lot of big changes in life. And it was a very kind of sad year for me. And that's where I feel like having a friend group is so important. And not only, I think quality over quantity when it comes to your friends too.
Absolutely.
Like, you need to have people in your life that genuinely support you and that want to see you succeed, and that are going to be there when you're crying over a boy or you're crying over work or something. They're going to be there. So I'm so thankful for so many things in Charlotte, the business connections and my job, but also the friend group that I've made here. I love my girlfriends so much. And with my sister being here, I have her friends too. So that is something, even if it's just a wine night, we're just sitting around talking, or we're going out in South End or doing something, who you surround yourself with is so important.
I completely agree. And it's not a cliche answer, because the biggest thing that I have learned throughout my journey is the people that you have around you have a direct reflection of where you're going. And if you don't surround yourself with people it's very few, but if you don't surround yourself with people that cheer you on, that celebrate your wins, it could have a drastic outcome for your future. And I was so blind to that. I grew up in a very humble home. I grew up thinking that everybody's a good person, that everybody's going to support you. And it took me well into my 30s to figure that out, that no, that's not how it works. Like, it's actually the opposite. The more success that you find, the more people that are actually going to not want to support you for a variety of reasons. That's a completely different subject, but that's just how it is. And it broke my heart, but it's just reality. And now I find myself having an extremely small circle of people that actually genuinely care, that will cheer you on, that get excited for things that you're doing. I've been working on my first short film documentary, and thank you. And there's up until now, there weren't a lot of people that knew about it. I'm very big on not telling people your big plans until it's almost there. And the support that I have gotten are from mostly the people in my inner circle. And when I tell other individuals, say in my industry, of what I'm doing, I don't get the same reaction, because maybe it's because of envy. Maybe it's because they're jealous that they're not doing it, blah, blah, blah. Who knows? But I didn't know that existed. And I was so blind to it up until a couple of years ago. So I 110% agree with you. It's not cliche, man. The people that you have around you is extremely, extremely important.
It is. And it even helps like with your self-confidence too.
Yes.
If you're not, so in 2022, again, that year was just honestly probably one of the worst years of my life. I was struggling with a lot of things internally that I'm very good at masking when things are not okay.
It was right after the pandemic.
Oh yeah, just so many things going on. And that was just something that year I really felt like I lost confidence. I didn't feel like I was deserving of any opportunities that I was getting. And, I had all these big goals for myself. And I'm like, maybe I'm really not going to pan out to be something that I want to be, or, I'm not good enough to do X, Y, and Z. Just really confidence was at an all-time low in every aspect of my life. And I have to say 2023, I think has been the best year of my life because I made a move. I honestly, whenever something is not, if something doesn't feel right, you should change it. Savannah didn't feel right for me anymore. And as much, I kept using the example of, and I don't know if I'm saying this correctly, but trying to fit a square into a circle.
Yes.
Like, you know that phrase? I'm
Yes.
not saying it correctly, but I just kept trying to make it work for every reason. I'm like, why is this not working? I feel like, am I supposed to be here? Am I supposed to be doing what I'm doing? And it was just something when I got the Charlotte opportunity, I was like, I had to make a selfish decision and come here. And honestly, coming here, like I said, was the best decision of my life. My life wouldn't be where it is now. And not only do I feel confident in my job, I feel confident in everything that I'm doing. I feel confident in my friends that I have, and they lift me up so much. Like they just make me feel good in every aspect of my life. So it's so, so, so important.
Are some of those friends like some of like your oldest friends? Like, have they been in your life for a while, or are these like more recent friends?
A lot of them are more recent friends, honestly. One of them I actually did meet in Savannah, and she's from here, so she moved back. And like, I never thought when we were friends in Savannah, I mean, it was great, but coming here, I mean, she's really one of my closest people now. And she, I know, supports me to the end of time. I mean, even coming here, I'm even more close with my sister than I was before. Her friends cheer me on. It's so great to have that group that lifts you up. Whether like on the days you're like, oh, I feel ugly or something. And they're like, oh my God, you're cute, stop. Or like, I feel like I'm not doing a good job at my job or something. And social media, it depends on the day too.
Yeah.
I mean, you can spend so much time on something, and if it doesn't do well, you get a little discouraged sometimes. Like, what the heck?
I was just talking about this with my coordinator yesterday. I was like, man, social media has changed so much, and like you'll work on something for so long and it just might not do well. But she was saying like it doesn't matter. You just have to keep going. 1, 2, if you're still getting engagement, you're still reaching the right people. 3, and it's all about practice, seeing what works, seeing what doesn't. And I am not a fan of social media just because of the stuff it promotes, what it does to society. I think I come from a generation where like you can start a random conversation at a coffee shop with a stranger, and now that's kind of like, for example, I've been in situations where I've never met an individual and we follow each other on social media, and we see each other in public and we don't acknowledge each other, and I'm just like, this is so awkward. Yeah. So there's so many things that I don't like about social media, but to turn that around, it's because of social media that I have a business. I ran my business without a website for 5 years.
Wow.
And 90% of my inquiries were through Instagram. Something I really like to ask individuals that I interview is if you had a piece of advice that you would like to give someone that maybe was in a situation that you and me were in, that we were chasing for something and not knowing what would that advice be?
I would say to bet on yourself and to trust your gut. Just because of all the experiences that we've talked about throughout the last how long we've been talking. Because I think it's very easy to get discouraged and be like, I'm not deserving of this. I'm not good enough for this. You are. And you're going to prove yourself wrong. And when you do, you're going to be like, you know what? I got this. Why did I ever even doubt myself? Just because I've been through that. I mean, all 2022, that's how I felt. Now 2023, I'm like, yeah, I got this. I'm good. You know what? Might make some mistakes and need to still figure things out. You're learning every day. But if something doesn't feel right, change it. 100%. Trust your gut with that. But believe in yourself that you can do it. And I mean, I'm only 25. I have a lot to still do.
You're only 25.
Yeah, I'm 25.
Wow. That's crazy.
So I definitely feel like I've had a lot of experiences for being 25, but I'm grateful for all those experiences.
That's awesome.
You know, even the Tonight Show with Jimmy Fallon, that was an internship that I dreamed of for years. He went to St. Rose for a little bit, which is near my hometown. And he didn't end up graduating because he did comedy and whatnot. But I was like, oh my gosh, I really want to be one of his interns. And I just think it's also making connections is huge too. Always take down names and numbers. Remember how you met people.
Networking.
Because yes, networking is huge. And people that don't
So
take
huge.
advantage of that. I literally will tell you, I was at a dinner with Penn State alumni in New York City during one of those journalism trips. I heard a girl across from me talking about working at the Tonight Show, and I was like, I'm so sorry, I don't mean to interrupt you, but please tell me everything about working there because it seems amazing, whatever. After that dinner, I went and emailed all 20 alumni with, kind of sharing information about myself, but also a cover letter, a letter of recommendation, and, just looking for a summer internship.
You went after it.
Oh, yeah. You gotta.
awesome. Yes.
Because you never know. Like, so many no's can lead to one yes that you need. And she was one of the few people that responded to me and was like, hey, I don't really know how much help I can be, but I'll try to pass this along. And there was I think 5,000 people that interviewed for that internship that summer, and I was one of 20 that got it.
Wow.
So you never know who you're going to meet. Shoot your shot and just see what happens. You never know the connections that you're going to make.
Interesting.
Bet on
Wow.
yourself. I'm telling you.
That's amazing. What are the challenges? So in reference to Explore Charlotte, do you guys ever find yourself in a challenging situation to where maybe client A wants to work with you guys? Is there any situation where you feel like it doesn't represent Explore Charlotte and you have to turn it down, or do you guys ever come with those kind of challenges?
Sometimes, yeah. I mean, definitely I'm more confident to say no to certain opportunities now. Where in the beginning, really knowing who your followers are and what they like is so unbelievably important, I believe, for your brand and
I'm
how
trying to work on that.
Yeah, and how you're trying. You got to listen to the people that are following you, because I'm very aware of what people like at this point. I mean, still sometimes things don't work out the way that you want them to and you post them on social media, but knowing your followers, oh my God, where was I going with this?
You're very in tune with what your following wants, and you're going to know if it's going to work or not for your brand.
Right. Yeah. So definitely this year I said yes to a lot of opportunities that I probably wouldn't say yes to in 2024. In 2024, I'm trying to be a lot more mindful about what I'm posting on Instagram. And again, we're focusing on, I'm saying we're, but I'm the only one that runs it. So I'm really focusing on quality over quantity next year. Because really, Instagram used to be so about volume and posting so much all the time, where TikTok is very much so like that now. But with Instagram, people want to see that you're putting out a quality content. There we go. And you're not just kind of throwing things out there just to see what happens,
Correct.
when people say
Fishing.
throwing. Yeah. And so you just got to be mindful of that. But yeah, I think there's definitely some things in the new year that I'll be more confident to say no to because I know it won't do well. And I don't want someone to waste advertising dollars or them to waste their time working with me or vice versa because I know it's not going to work with our audience.
Such a good answer.
Thanks.
Yeah. Because I do so many things. You go to my Instagram and people are like, oh, you just shoot models and all this. No, that's not what I do. I do that on the side. I do commercial work. I do wedding films and wedding photography. I do marketing content, marketing SEO, you name it. I wanted to provide services to where if you came to me with a project, no matter what it was, I don't care if it's food or a wedding or a fashion, I want to be able to do it at the highest quality. Mm-hmm. So my issue has always been, oh, I'm going to post this. I just shot with a model on the beach. I'm going to post this. I just shot some food at this awesome restaurant. Mm-hmm. And, it's hard to find that niche when I do so many different things. So that's exactly what I'm working on. So I'm so happy that you answered that
And
question.
it definitely, I mean, it took this entire year for me to really learn that. And that's why I feel confident going into this new year of the things that I will be posting and just being more mindful of that. But yeah, I just think even like in influencing now, people just take brand deals that you're like, okay, this doesn't even make sense to your brand. So for me, I mean, I wouldn't want to do something if I don't think it's going to work.
Quality over quantity.
Yep.
All right. Well, we do unfortunately have to wrap up. I feel like I can talk to you for another hour.
Hey, well, I'll come back. Twist my arm.
We'll have to do it again. But thank you so much for coming here.
Yeah, thank you for having me. This was great.
Yeah, I felt like when I met you at that grand opening, I was kind of like taken back when you're like, yeah, I run Explore Charlotte, and I'm like, wow, she's so humble. I thought she was just a random influencer. Yeah, I kind of wanted people to know your story, and I myself wanted to know how you got there. And it's so inspiring and encouraging to know that you worked your ass off and you chased after it. So,
I appreciate you saying that, and I appreciate you giving me the opportunity to kind of tell my story, because I think sometimes when I reflect on my own things, I'm like, I've done so many things. Was this a waste of time? But it all led me to where I am now. What's meant for you won't miss you.
Awesome. Well, please go follow Jamie at, where can they find you?
Explore CLT. That's the main account that I run. But if they want to follow my personal as well, it's just my name, Jamie Burton, but with 2 A's. So we can kind of like write in the caption and different things like that.
I'll make sure and have it in the description. And thank you guys for listening to another episode of the HisViewZ podcast. And we'll see you later. Thank you, Jamie.
Thank you.